Hello everyone, this is Allegedly Caleb, and we're back with some more of our Kharkov 42 campaign. Our game against James sort of ground down to a halt, so I am playing a different campaign, but still Kharkov 42. So far, we're a couple turns ahead of where we were in our campaign against James, and I will show you our progress and our future plans in this episode. So to give you a quick, brief overview, we are playing the Soviet Union. We are currently on an offensive for Kharkov. Our overarching goal is essentially to surround this city. Now, the game starts off in a draw. As of now, we have almost 7,000 losses in men, whereas the Axis have about 5,000, and then 124 guns lost to their 163, and 44 vehicles lost to their 18. So, let's zoom in a little further here, shall we? So overall, I will show our kind of general goals with each group. So first, let's zoom in. We've got the 76th Rifle Division. They're a bit of a better division. They start out morale level C as opposed to morale level D. We are going up against the 79th Infantry Division, which you can see is very spread out. We have them all the way down here, so quite spread out. So we're hoping that their units are a bit depleted and spread out as well. Anyway, our goal with them is to, here it is, push across this bridge right here into these objectives, and then either hold the flank kind of like in this area as we push with them, and in conjunction with this pink division capture Murom, this big objective, which has a ton of points of value. So we'd like to do that, and then we'd probably hold this road right here and these heights, and these guys are, their objective is just to protect the flank of our main force pushing. So that is them. And again, we have pink right here, 293rd. They're also level C. They are pushing up over this hill straight into Murom. Yeah, we want to take this. So the brunt of their strength is going to go against those objective hexes. All right. And I should mention, this is all for the 21st Army. But our next division, that's mainly what we're using right now in terms of our organization. If I could find their headquarters, here it is. The 227th, also morale level C. So these guys are decent for Soviets. Their objective is to pretty much push through this valley right here and kind of go into the south of Murom. They can definitely threaten along this road right here. Actually, let me thicken this a little bit. There. Along this road right here. And then we are looking to kind of hold these units or push around them. So we want to be able to flank this objective and potentially cut off their supply. But we also do want to eventually put them back on their main line of advance, which their main line of advance is this direction. Let me zoom out. So pretty much around, yeah, that direction. They're also mostly guarding the flank. All right. And you can see we have 2 tank brigades, or really 1 tank brigade, and then a couple of separate tank battalions over here. Their objective is to try to get into this open ground. There's tons of open ground in this area, and we can use them to try and even get up onto this freeway and push onto Kharkov from the south, or from the north. or we could push them. Here, I'll show this. We could get them up around this way, or we could go this way. So getting them out will just give us options. We do actually have... No, I was right. It is just one tank brigade over here. Okay, and then we have... Who is this? 175th Division. They're morale level D. That's generally what the rest of the Soviets tend to be. You can see they are going up against this pillbox complex, Ternovaya. So their objective is to take that. That's their main objective right now, right here. They're almost done pushing through these woods, and then we'd also like to try and flank around if we can, because once we take Ternovaya, we would like to push up that road, capture those objectives, and then kind of come down the road, maybe over here as well. Capture that. And again, they're kind of protecting the flank a little bit. Lots of flank protection, but we have a wide open flank up here, especially when we're pushing south. So I don't want those units to all get cut off from the north, because that would be bad. Okay. Now we have the 169th Rifle Division. They're also morale level D. You can see they're facing a couple of trenches. We haven't really pushed through most of the enemy units over here yet. I'll show you their objective. Their objective is to take this, and don't confuse them with these guys. This is a tank brigade, but take that and then also push along this road or out into this open area, and then either flank that Ternovaya position or flank these couple of enemy positions further to the south. Depending on the situation, we can even just push them further to the west, because there's a couple more positions along here, and then when we zoom out, you'll see lots of open over here. So more objectives along here, and the further we push, we get to the river. I don't know what this river, I guess Kharkov River, that might be what it's called. Now we have a tank brigade over here that is hoping to take advantage of this open ground. So they've got some T-34s, which are probably our best tanks, some KV-1s, which are arguably also very good. You know, maybe those would be considered our best tanks. But our T-34s are far more numerous. And then our T-60s, which kind of get beat up a lot. They're not very good, but they are hard targets. In addition to them, also, in case you haven't noticed, we've got tons of artillery. And in some areas, we're starting to reach the outer range of where that artillery can hit. But for the most part, they are still firing away. Anyway, back to where we're at. Now we are at the 244th Rifle Division. Also morale level D. Kind of wish some of those morale level C units were in the center and our morale level D units were holding the flank, because the morale level D units will see less action generally. But this division is characterized in pink. You can see they are intermixed with some of their surrounding forces, and their general objective is just to push west, essentially. They don't really have any specific areas that they are trying to take quite yet. So as of now, they're going to this way, eventually maybe taking those hexes, or moving north or south to help another division. And then we have another tank brigade, 90th Tank Brigade. More T-34s. These tank brigades also have a motorized SMG battalion. terrible at firing just from one hex across, but they're really good at assaulting compared to the rest of the Soviet units. So that's what they're going to be doing a lot of. They've got some more T-34s and T-60s. Then you see this red unit right here. That means they are a guard unit. So these units are some of our best units we have on the field. Morale level B. So they're our 13th Guards Rifle Division. They are actually doing some of the best pushing right now. They have already taken objective. They have forced this group of units to fall back from this trenched objective, and hopefully we're going to be making a breakthrough over here. Maybe not. You can still see a lot of enemy units, but they're generally just trying to push west as well. Take these 3 hexes, and then after that we'll have to decide. There's this stream right here that'll slow down our movement, but maybe once we get across that, we can either push them south to cut off all of these units, or push them further to the west. So if you're starting to see a theme here, generally a lot of our movement is highly dependent on what's going on around the context. Essentially, we want to keep away from really, like, I don't want to say well-defined, but concrete orders that won't change. We want to stay fluid and help our other forces where we can. Anyway, we've got a bunch of tank brigades over here trying to take advantage of this flat terrain. And there are some enemy tanks, some Stugs in the area. So we want to try and take those guys on with our tanks that are good at fighting other tanks. So you can see 2 different tank brigades right here. One of these has these obsolete BT-7s. They're good recon tanks, but not very good at these types of head-on assaults that we're mainly focusing on right now. But a really big hot point of the battle, sort of a linchpin you could say, is this little village right here. Or actually it was a town. Now it's rubbled because it's been in the middle of a ton of fighting. And these hexes are about 1 kilometer wide. So this town is a little big. It's right on the freeway or the highway that we're trying to take to Kharkov. So it's extremely important. If we can take that, they will not have another area that has lots of cover along this highway for a while. Probably until we get to these villages over here. So once we take that, we should be good to push them pretty hard. But they also recognize that this is a really important spot, so we've been fighting over it tooth and nail. The enemy has a lot of forces around here that they are cycling in and out of combat. But so do we. We have a lot more. So what do we have over here? We've got another tank brigade. We've got a ton of supporting units. And you can see, in fact, most of the units over here are supporting units. Actually, these guys have really bad fatigue. We need to pull them back. So one trick of the game is if your fatigue gets over 200, that's intermediate fatigue. That is when fatigue starts to really give your units big debuffs, and it becomes a lot harder to reduce it. When it's in the green, it's easier to reduce it, but once it starts to get into the orange, it's a little bit dangerous. But we have the 226th Rifle Division over here. They're a morale level C division, so they're pretty good. They are the main ones who are fighting over this point. They've already taken a bunch of casualties compared to our other divisions. Most of their battalions are hovering at around 80 to 85%, more or less. These guys are at 65%, although they were victims of some airstrikes. But their main objective is to push along this highway. And then you can see we've got a bunch of tank brigades. These guys are English tanks. So they are Blend-Lease tanks, probably some of the early ones we get in the war, which is interesting. Ooh, 1 second. All right, I am back. Just greeting my wife after she just got home. So, where were we? We were on the 226th Rifle Division. They're fighting over that very strategic town that is now no longer a town. Further, and I was saying we have a ton of support units and a ton of tank brigades around here. Then after them, we have the 124th Rifle Division. They are this like teal color, I guess you could say. We have them mostly trying to get into these hexes. We were so close. We disrupted them and everything, but they were unable to get in before some enemy reinforcements arrived. But their main objective is to push into this line right here. You can even see there's an enemy. This is a river right here. So we cannot assault south, unfortunately, but we would like to take that hex as well. But the first thing we need to do is move this hex, because we cannot move here if there's another unit back here. So we need to push those guys out, and then we can move south. So once we do that, we're going to have a little more room to maneuver and a little more room to get our units in the mix. But we took one trench line in this village. This is Peshanoya, this big village that's about spanning 5 kilometers. So next we'd like to take these woods, but this is another tough area to take. And a couple battalions are pretty depleted, and some of these guys are really disrupted. But for the most part, these guys haven't taken too many casualties. And then finally, we have a division, the 81st Rifle Division, level C, morale level C, I should say. And I forgot to mention, these guys are also morale level C. So this one, which is a little bit of like a darker greenish blue, they're originally stationed over here, and their original objective was to push across this river and take Bolshaya Babka. But first of all, it's not even worth any points, and second of all, trying to push across bridges in this game is extremely difficult. So you have to put your units in travel mode, which severely reduces how good they are in combat, and it like triples the amount of casualties they take every time they get fired on. So I thought, no thank you, why don't we move them up here and then use them to push into any area that kind of weakens. Specifically, maybe replacing this division whose men are a little bit depleted already, or pushing them into this crack and really pressuring them, because they only have this one unit right here. So their movement has been just pretty much like this, and it's been very slow because they're going through the woods. And right now I sort of have them in this reserve spot, and I'm trying to figure out where best to send them. Okay, so that's this front. We've got some units over here. This is the 300th Rifle Division. They're not, well, they're morale level C. They're okay, but they're not pushing out. I'm just kind of figuring out where the enemy line of resistance is over here. And then we've got the 119th Rifle Division. Same thing, they're not really pushing. And then over here we have 304th Rifle Division, not pushing. The 337th Rifle Division, not pushing. And before I move on to the rest of the front, I do want to show the reinforcements that we have prepared to push once the enemy lines are broken up a little bit. And actually, let me show you these forces in the order that they're going to be released. So May 13th, which is tomorrow, which we're getting close to there, we're going to have a couple units get released. We're going to have this whole Guard Cavalry Corps get released. We're going to have this Guards Tank Brigade get released. We're going to have this Rifle Division get released. And then we're going to have this Rifle Division get released. After that, it will be 2 days until anything else is released. So that will include just a standard Rifle Division. That will include 1, 2, 3. Are these guys part? Yeah. 3 cavalry divisions and a motorized infantry division, which we do not have very many of. These guys are all mounted in trucks. Not too much better than a regular rifle battalion, but they are way more mobile. And then they don't really have any armor or anything though. And then this cav, they're pretty good. They're just more mobile essentially. And these guys are morale level C. These guys are morale level B, which is awesome. And these guys are morale level B. And then finally, we have these guys, morale level D. Actually, one more unit. We do have a Guards Tank Brigade led by Scuba. They've got T-34s, BT-7s, and T-60s. So not the T-34s are good. They've got 21 of them. Otherwise, not that much armor. There are only, that's what, about 40, a little over 40 tanks. Maybe a little over 50 tanks. So their job is going to be to push across the river and essentially push hardest wherever the enemy are weakest. Because we want to use these guys as our force that are going to push towards Kharkov through a break in the enemy line. Anyway, now let's move south. We do have a bunch of anti-air units moving up, and then our overall southwest front moving up as well. Now let's move over here. I won't get into any of the other reinforcements until probably a couple turns before they get released. So now we have the 47th Mountain Rifle Division. Their main job is just to hold this southern flank, and I'm going to spread them out a little bit more into this direction once all of these guys move on. So let's move on to this purple division. Here's your HQ, 253rd Rifle Division. These guys are morale level B. They're very good, and they've already pushed the Hungarians who started along this line right here. You can see the trenches. They've pushed them out. So now we have this whole open area, and what I am debating on doing with them, once we get this little area covered, is just pushing them this way. If I do that, the enemy Hungarians kind of shifted over here. This is their line right now. And there's not many of them because we did isolate and destroy a couple of their battalions. So we shouldn't have too much resistance. And if we push this way, it'll force the enemy to commit some of their reserves over here into these woods to try and stop us, instead of committing them down here to our main thrust and really blocking our forces because we're not making a ton of advances over here. So that's our goal with them. And I should mention that I think it's these guys. This unit right here, the first battalion of the 983rd Rifle Regiment, I am using this unit as a advanced squad leader campaign. I'm creating a solitaire advanced squad leader campaign based off of this unit's fighting. I picked them randomly among the whole Soviet order battle. So we already fought one battle with them. They fought over this area. It was a pretty bloody battle against the Hungarians. And now they are probably going to get pushed this way. All right, here, let me use this. They'll either get pushed that way or pushed this way. I have yet to see. Okay, so that's one. We've got some armor over here as well. The 48th Tank Brigade. Unfortunately, most of them are disrupted by airstrikes from the enemy, which is unfortunate. But our tanks, what I'm trying to do with my other forces in the area, specifically this blue division, where's their HQ? Here it is. This division, the 41st Rifle Division, which are a morale level D unit, they're currently saying morale level E, and that's because the HQ is disrupted. But they are doing a good job at sweeping the Hungarians away, forcing them to retreat or get surrounded. And what they're doing, let me go back to this blue, is trying to force the Hungarians, so let me redraw that. They're trying to force the Hungarians to open up this little sliver of hexes so that I can get my tanks out into the enemy's back lines. What that would allow me to do is then push those tanks up. And that got increased to the biggest size by accident. So I want to push those tanks up this highway because their eventual objective is Kharkov. I guess that area continues to work. We want to secure one of these bridges with them. This one or this one. I think no, because those are the only two heavy bridges around here. So I want to secure one of those so that I can get more of my forces across. And then hopefully force the enemy to withdraw some of its units. Oh, sorry about that. I just got texted. Okay. So that's why you're going to start seeing a concentration of armored brigades over in this area, because I want to push them together as a unit. Okay. Next, we've got the 411th Rifle Division, morale level C. They are pushing the other side of the Hungarians, either trying to isolate them. Actually, let me make this bigger. Their goal is to either push this way or push this way. Maybe start moving into these hexes. Velikaya Bereka. That's how you say that. Or just push along the road and kind of follow up behind the eventual armored push we want to do. And they're in pretty good order right now. See, that's all of their divisions. Most of them are around the 85 to 90%, whereas the 67th Infantry Division, these yellow guys we're facing, are pretty beat up. But these last two turns, actually I'll get into that in a little bit. I do want to point out my blue division over here, even though so many of them are disrupted, you can see their percentage is actually really good of how many troops they have. So they're going to be capable of a lot of fighting. Same thing with this purple division. These guys are almost untouched. So that is excellent for us. Eventually we might want to switch them out with one of these guys who are taking more casualties fighting against the main enemy defensive line. And fighting against the Germans rather than the Hungarians, because the Hungarians are not as strong as the Germans. So, anyway, that's this green division. Now we've got this pink-ish division. The 266th Rifle Division. They're morale level D. They're supported by a bunch of Army level support units. Or maybe front level support units. No, it is Army. And some tank brigades. I think these guys are starting to move up this direction though. Anyway, this pink division, their goal is to push through this valley. Let me switch to a bigger one. You want to push through this valley pretty much along the main road and along that side road and sort of take a lot of these villages. So they're going to have it very difficult because they are facing a lot of Germans. Now most of their battalions have not taken a ton of casualties, except for occasional ones like this guy, which are almost at 70% already. But they've got a lot of support assets. You got another tank brigade, which it's not a strong tank brigade at all. But they have a little more. They've got BT-7s, KV-1s, more of these T-60s, and a handful of T-34s. It feels like they were in the process of switching these BT-7s to T-34s before this offensive started. Anyway, another one right here. This one's got some more Matildas, which is that Lend-Lease tank. But they've got a ton of those, so they've only got 2 battalions. These guys and this guy. Because they have so many of those Matildas, which are a very good tank-on-tank tank, but not a very good infantry tank. You can see they only have 2 soft attack, whereas these T-60s have a lot more, but their armor is really low. So even infantry divisions can hurt them, or infantry battalions can hurt them. But now we are done with the 6th Army, which is pushing here. And now we are into this big Cav army, which is led by, let me see if I can find them, HQ Group Bobkin. Both of these guys are in the 6th Cavalry Corps. So first we have this 26th Cav Division. They are this orangey color. They're generally trying to push, let me get my pen, along this road. I'm on the biggest one again. So they're, that's how. They are generally trying to push along this road. We're kind of avoiding this big clump of units right here, because it's a lot of units and we don't really want to face that. So we're kind of avoiding them. Then we've got this blue Cav Division right here. They are the 28th Cav Division. They are morale level C, so they're all right. They are facing off against some Slovakians, I believe. Yeah, that's what these guys are, if I remember right. And then some Germans. These guys are not frontline Germans. The 454th Siegerung Division. I believe they're mainly supposed to be like police force. Excuse me. So these guys, they've not been faring very good, as you can tell Tons of them are disrupted. Got a lot of kind of depleted units. So they have not been faring greatly against these enemy units over here. Then we've got this green division, which has been having a lot more luck. 49th Cav Division. They are morale level C. They are doing much better than their other Cav divisions. They are stretching the German lines over here. In fact, they pushed past the German front line over here. And the Germans had to scramble some units to form a perimeter with them. And none of these units are dug in. So we're going to continue. I should mention these guys' direction. They basically just wanted to take those hexes, and then from there we'd see where they go. These guys over here, it's kind of just pushing them this way, trying to break through. Here. And where I want to send them probably is this way. Maybe swing them around left or right, but probably just push them out. And then finally, we have an infantry division, the 393rd, that was supposed to just be one of those divisions that kind of sat and guarded a sector, but the sector they were guarding was pretty much the same sector that this green cavalry division was pushing in. So I decided to consolidate them further down here instead of wasting these guys taking Mironovka. Instead of wasting them to take Mironovka, I decided why not have them all do it instead. So they're going this way in two areas like this. Once they take that, we'll see what we do with them. Probably just sit them around here, because if you haven't noticed, there is quite a large gap in our lines between this pink division and this darker division down here. So that's a little bit concerning. I don't think historically the Germans had many units over here, but they can definitely get some over here if they find this gap and push through. That would be kind of devastating. Push right to the south of my main force that's pushing. That would not be good. Now historically, we'll show you a quick little deployment of my other forces. But historically, the main enemy push came this direction. Straight up that road. Goodness gracious, there's a child screaming bloody murder. But yeah, this way. And then their overall goal, I'll show you on the big map, because I don't think the small map is big enough. Or I don't think the main map is big enough. But their main goal, you can probably guess it already just by looking at that map, is to cut us off right around there. And then let me get my red marker out and thick surround all of these units. And that is what they did historically, and that's why this battle was a massive failure for the Soviets, because they had around 200,000 men captured. That's a lot of men. So these guys got pushed back to like here as well. So we would like to avoid that from happening. We do know, just with historical hindsight and the way that this scenario is set up, that eventually, maybe in 5 days or so, the Germans are going to push. Their Operation Frederikus is going to start and push this way against, I might as well just show you on the main map. When Operation Frederickis starts, it will start from down here. They've got a huge buildup of forces all along this area, and you can actually see some of these specialized forces over here. For example, motorized. No, that's not even motorized. That's mechanized units. They've got motorized units right here. And then we do know that they've got like 1 billion units in Slavyansk, and because we've reconned them previously. Do we have any recon? I don't want to waste recon on them. They probably got so much AA down there anyway, but we know that they have so many forces down here ready to push us. So I would like to hold as much of this ground as I can and make steady retreats, probably behind this river when that does happen. But that means we're going to have to move a lot of units against an enemy that has an overwhelming amount of armor. Plus, that will also leave all of these units exposed. I don't necessarily want to surrender these hexes because that's 1,000 victory points. 500 victory points. A bunch along this line right here. A bunch along this rail line. 2,000 right here. We'd leave that exposed if we retreated all our units behind the river, which is why I think these victory points are here in the first place. So we don't really want to do that. We want to try keeping this rail line intact if we can. See, that's why there's some victory hexes along it. So overall, that is our strategic situation. I would say right now we are in a decent place. Well, no, honestly, it's too early to call. It's too early to call. Again, it's 4 o'clock right now at the start of this turn. I think what time does it turn into dusk? 6 p.m. is the dusk turn, so we have 2 more turns of daylight, this turn and next turn, and then it's the night turn, which there are 2 turns. You don't really move very much at night if you can help it. And at night you only see units that are right next to you. So we would like to maybe rest some of our units during the night. But also push where it's strategic to push. And because we have numbers on our side and assaults are just a lot more, there's a lot more casualties that happen in assaults on both sides at nighttime due to night fighting. That will probably go in our advantage because the enemy has less men than us. Let's actually take a look. I wonder if we can look at the strength. We cannot look at the Axis strength. Let's look over here. And I am going to undo that. Now let's... Oh no, what did I just do? Hope I didn't do anything important by accident. I didn't save it, so as long as I don't save it, I should be fine. Anyway, I just want to look at the strength difference. So we have 143,000 men. Oh, actually, we have multiple fronts, so we really need to check across all those fronts. 143 in that front. 62, so that's about 200,000. That's 7,000, almost 8,000 in our reserves. So we have pretty much 200,000 against their, against their 200,000. We have a big gun advantage. About 5,000 guns to their 3,000. That's why we're winning the gun battle, probably. We have 9,000. That's about 1,000. 1,050. There's some more down here. 1,100. 1,150-ish vehicles against their 1,300 essentially. And we have about 2,000 or 200. Ooh, we only have about 250-ish planes against their 500 planes. So their Air Force is, and that you can see, their Air Force is cutting us up. Or at least I can see that. It's not too hot. Let's just put it that way. And again, casualties so far, they've lost 18 aircraft, which is a lot. And you can see we already have 115 points from that, which is almost as many points as we have just from gun losses. So that's been pretty helpful to us. But we are pretty close on the manpower loss front. On the gun loss front, they're a little higher than us. On the vehicle front, we've lost a lot of vehicles. But points worth, it's not. Well, I guess it's almost double. Yeah. And air losses, they've lost a lot. We need 5,000 for a minor victory. We need 8,000 more to make that happen. Like 750 more, pretty much. So, we got a long way to go. Let's put this back. Okay, we got a long way to go. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. That is my current status. I'll probably come back maybe around the end of day 2. And we'll see where we're at that point. But anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you want to see more of this campaign. And yeah, I will catch you next time. I'm really enjoying this so far. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.